you're just tuning in, this is Emily Bouchard with the Wealth Psychology show at Sylvia Global Media, and my guest is Erik Newton of Heath-Newton LLP. And Erik, what I want to ask you is, you were just speaking in the last segment about how people can really use these conversations to strengthen and have really meaningful romantic relationships, even when it's very, very heated and emotional around the emotional impact of what's going to happen with our money if we don't stay together in terms of a prenup conversation. And my particular focus and expertise is on blended families, people who have been in prior relationships, perhaps had children in prior relationships, both of them, and then they come together and they have yours, mine, and ours scenarios with their kids, and they have new hopes and dreams for this new relationship, whether it's their second or their third, and they have a lot of history. They have a lot of baggage. They may have spousal support that they're paying from a past relationship or alimony in other states. They have child support issues that they're having to do. They have assets. They may have debts from and obligations that they're legally bound to from prior relationships. And they're coming together wanting to form a new family, a new life, and have everything be rosy. And they didn't learn beforehand how to do it well. And so these conversations are particularly loaded because when they happened in the past, they may have contributed to the relationship breaking up. And so in estate planning for the blended family that L. Paul Hood, a former estate planning attorney, and I wrote together, we really focused on prenups quite a bit because it's such a foundational piece, and people dealing with these complex dynamics with conflicts of interest, with these obligations from the past, really have to contend with. And do you have any experience working with people from that perspective?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the blended family couples who come to us for prenups tend to be the least emotionally charged and the most pragmatic.
Ah, well, good. Prove me wrong. Let me hear it.
I hate to prove you wrong, but it's so funny, our different perspectives. I think they must work out their issues with you in advance and then come to us afterwards is probably what's happening here. My experience is that the blended families are, they're so clear on their ulterior priorities that when they merge those two priorities together, because they both have priorities on the outside that make sense to them and that they're unrepentant about, they come together, they articulate them, and then we have a prenup very quickly.
Well, because there's a lot of clarity then.
Clarity. Clarity, it's the key. It is the key. What I was stating in the last segment was that when we come together in a romantic dynamic, our issues come to the fore, and we can use those to go deeper if we take that opportunity. And the way that, in my view, we go deeper with those issues is we look at the value that's being threatened, that's causing the emotion to manifest.
Yeah.
And when you get clear on the value that's being threatened, you can speak so directly. When you speak about your shared values or your individual values, that's a language that people understand. And it's a language that results in very clear prenups.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, one of the things that we work with people on with our Rich Life portfolio and with couples that come to us has a lot to do with identifying their core values and giving them a place of safety to be able to express them and share them with each other, and not hit each over the head with them, like my way or the highway, but more like, oh, this is who I am, and this is what really matters to me. And yay that they're going to you in advance and having these prenups. And I think that one of the reasons why we were so concerned about it in our book is because if somebody's reaching for a book on blended family estate planning and they're looking at, wow, I want to be conscious and take this seriously, it's probably the most important conversation they're going to be having in all of this, because it just is the foundation for every decision you make, every possible structure you might have for how to take care of all the people you care about in your life. Yeah.
And my experience with the blended families is that they've, I think when people are younger, and they're less clear on what their own values are, it's more difficult to articulate those values, of course, right?
Yeah.
But people who've been through a divorce and have had children are very clear on what they care about and their priorities and their values, and they can just articulate them to each other. And, you've got to fit the puzzle pieces together. Absolutely. That's why they hire an attorney to do it mindfully. And that's something of a challenge, but it's doable once you're clear about the perspective. And so I love working with blended families. I find them to be so refreshingly direct.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I'm delighted that you are, because some people just shy away from them. And one thing that often comes up for blended families is, and in prenups in general, is it seems like it's really essential that each party has their own lawyer involved in it. And you keep saying we and these couples. So do you have a different take on that, that you can draw up a prenup that both people sign and they don't have to have two lawyers?
Well, you raise a great point. So in order for an agreement to be binding in California, both parties need to have, quote, the opportunity to consult with independent counsel.
Yeah.
That's the language of the law. Now, what that actually means in California law is that you've both got to have attorneys.
Yes.
If you had the opportunity but you didn't get one, you probably didn't really have the opportunity. So for an agreement to be binding, you both need lawyers. Now, that said, there are a couple of ways that you can go about drafting a prenup. One is the traditional, and this is where one party hires a lawyer, tells them what they want in the prenup, the lawyer drafts it up, sends it over to the other party's lawyer who reviews it,
Yeah.
and then there's a back and forth and negotiation. Eventually you reach an agreement and you're done. That can work for some couples if there's very good communication, or it can create a contentious battleground if there isn't.
Yeah.
We're quite good at navigating those waters to make them as amicable as possible. And that's the route that most people take because it's the least expensive. The alternative is that the couple hires one attorney to draft the agreement and to mediate the conversation and to coach the two of them through considering implications of their choices and working out an agreement that really works. And then they each take it to separate attorneys who review it for them to make sure that there's nothing crazy and that their interests are being satisfied. And then they all sign it together.
Great. And the next segment, we're going to be talking a little bit about the nothing crazy part, because that's been happening in the news recently in terms of some pretty far out things that people are including in their prenups these days.
Oh, great. I can't wait to hear.